need my fan for this one. First, before we get into this heated video, I would like to take a moment of gratitude for myself, just to be thankful for waking up to a brand new day, for waking up as a Black woman in New York City. I'm lying in my bed this morning as I woke up, and I'm just like, I woke up in New York City. I could have waking up anywhere else in the world, but I woke up here in New York City. And it feels different, yo. Waking up in New York City feels different. Beyond what words can describe. I love it here. I'm always asked, will I ever leave New York? Or where would I go if I leave? And I'm like, where would I go? New York is home. There's no better place than New York. So let's just get that out of the way. I am blessed. I'm beyond blessed. Sometimes I forget how blessed I am. And I'm grateful. So I just have to start this video with gratitude for being me, for being a Black African woman, for being alive, being well, being amongst the living and not amongst the dead. And there are some people who are breathing, but they are dead spiritually, unfortunately. I'm grateful that I am not amongst those people. So I'm making this video because I'm a content creator. Let's put some things into perspective first, okay? I think some of y'all have to be reminded that I am a content creator, right? I am a YouTube partner. I have been for several years now. I do get compensated for my videos. Not just compensation from YouTube. I receive also monthly compensation from Facebook. So let's put that into perspective, right? This is in addition to my salary, my annual salary that I receive from New York State as a clinical psychologist. It's pretty decent, by the way, should I say. But let's put things into perspective, because I think sometimes people forget that you guys are coming to my videos. I'm not coming in your space. You guys are coming in my space on my videos. And I welcome you. Right, my videos are open to the public. I do have the option to make some of my videos private and available only to members who subscribe to a certain portion of my YouTube channel, right? Who subscribe to my YouTube channel through membership, right? By paying a monthly or annual fee. I do have that option, but I haven't activated that yet. We'll see though. If you guys have some ideas, we'll see, because I might be moving in that direction, because I realize that my level of candidness and truthfulness and honesty is just too much for a lot of you guys. And usually before I go there in my video, I'll say that. Like, this might be a little bit too much. Some of y'all welcome it with open arms because you like honesty. You respect the truth, right? Regardless of whose lips it's coming off of, you respect truth. The issue happens when, and I'm loving that it's happening the way it is, because you guys go back and watch my previous video that I made, which I'll drop in the comment section below, so you guys who haven't seen it can go back and watch it. But the outrage apparently is coming from the video that I made from an email that I received from a Black bull. And the title of the video simply says, Black Bull questions interracial cuckolding, right? He had a lot of questions relating to interracial cuckolding. The gist of his email simply said he was wondering, like, why? Why are white people so hyper-focused and obsessed with interracial relationships? Like, why is it such a big push, right? And why is it that white women, white men are wanting to be with black women and black men? Like, what's the big deal? What's the hype all about, right? So, of course, me being a proud Pan-African, I don't make any apologies for that. Me embracing my Africanity, no apologies for that. Me being a conscious, politically conscious African, I definitely had to give it my perspective, right? Give him my perspective from that lens, through that lens, right? Through that Afro-political conscious lens. And I get it, right? It was too much, right? The truth sometimes is just too much for people to bear. But let's, again, put things into perspective that you guys are viewers, which means that you have a choice, right? This is not a forced subscription where you guys have to watch this, right? You have no other choice. I'm the only channel that you guys are exposed to on YouTube. Yo, there is countless number of vloggers, of channels, not just on this platform on YouTube, but on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, we are inundated with so much media. Whatever you like, right? You can pick and choose whatever you like. It just makes me wonder, for people who do not like my content, why is it that you keep coming back? That says a lot about you. I know I'm attractive, right? I know my content is interesting, it's titillating, but ain't that goddamn on interesting, yo? Is it? Like, am I that irresistible that you guys can't help yourself but keep coming back to a space that you feel such strong negative emotions when you're here? And I'm going to get into it. I'm not going to read verbatim these comments that were sent to me from these outraged white beta male cuckolds, right? And it's clear that they're white. One tried to pass as Arab, saying that, well, he's really African American. No, please, with the blackface, right? Like, I'm just over it, right? I'm just over it. But it's just like, you're here. Clearly, what I'm saying isn't for you, right? And a lot of people take to my videos. They love what I have to share. They appreciate it. They keep coming back. They can't help themselves, right? Because they finally found someone who is speaking on topics that they can relate to, that they are living, or perhaps that they want to live, they have a fantasy about, right? I'm speaking to their interests. Sometimes mine too, right? Because if I wasn't interested in it, I wouldn't be making a video about it necessarily. But I have some degree of interest in it. And yeah, they're outraged. And I'm like, I'm pondering, like, why? I mean, I get that some things I said in that video, you guys have to go back and watch it. It's in the comments section below. I get that some things I said, you know, you may have disagreed with, right? May have made you upset. I kind of expected that. But for people to be this outraged goes to show me that you do care. That apparently you hold me to be of high importance, of a person that you really value what I say. You have to. Enough that, I'm getting like essays. I'm getting like essays. I didn't even do the word count But I'm sure it had to be over 1,000 words, yo. Essays, long essays from white men who are throwing up on paper. But it's very telling, though, because obviously, as a person who studies behavior, some things I get curious about, and the things that you say and in the way you respond, it's just like, One person said that I am obsessed, and I've heard this before. This is not new, right? This is not a new assumption. But one person goes to say that I am obsessed with race. Like, I have an obsession with race. I'm like, how dare you? And we're talking about race politics here, right? Racism, right? Systematic racism, institutional racism. I have an obsession with racism, right? I'm like, no, let's rephrase here. White people have an obsession with race. For us as Black people, as African people, we are disgusted. We're repulsed at the racism. For activists such as myself, and I'm not the only one, but of the likes of myself, we're not obsessed with race. But the irony, though, is like, that's how I know it came from a white person. This person who sent this, who made that comment, is posing as if he's an Arabic, which he identifies himself as African American. Come to find out, he's actually in the Switzerland area. Come to find out. But I mean, it was very clear and evident in his email that he sent, loaded with so many insecurities of who he is, right? That, I mean, little old me. How could little old me like get this man off his rocker? Like, sometimes I'm amazed, yo, when I open an email and I see the length and the amount of energy that is put into an email. I'm like, for little old me, like, wow, right? It makes me somewhat feel special. But then I look deeply and I'm just like, I find it interesting that, number one, he's disguising himself behind an African American identity, which he's not, right? And he says that he's African American because he moved to America. He's from the northern region of Africa, and he identifies himself as Arabic. Yo, that's bullshit. You know how I know that it's bullshit? So, like, yo, I read between the lines. I see straight through it. You can't bring bullshit to me because I'm not going to believe it. Number one, he uses a fake email, right? The email is for him to disguise his real email, right? So he goes to this third-party company using his fake email, thinking that he can't be traced. That's not true, right? Like, I'm pretty tech savvy. A lot of people don't know that, but my first major was computer science. Okay? We're not going to get into that, though. But he disguises his real email under this fake email, this pseudo email. Then he signs off with his name. Now, the level of contradiction is absurd there, right? Like, who would do that? He's doing too much. That's what you call doing too much, right? To disguise yourself. Doing too much to pose yourself as one thing when you're really something else. No one who wants to disguise their email, their identity, will sign off with their name. But he's posing himself to be something that he's not, just so he doesn't be looked at as another racist white person. Listen, I don't care. I don't care that you're racist. You are who you are. You don't have to hide that. The truth is already there that you're racist. You have to understand, because he's not American, right? It's clear. It is no shade to people who are not Americans, but it's something to be said, no matter the race, for people who are non-American, who are not born here in America. They know very little about American culture and American history. You're talking to an American-born citizen here. I've lived in America all my 39 years of life. I grew up, I was born and raised in the South, okay? The deep South, in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. People oftentimes don't like to claim Florida as the deep South because, oh, there's Disney World, there's Universal Studios, right? It's a place where people go to retire. Rich, white, wealthy people go to retire to Florida. But no, let's be clear. Florida is very racist. Florida is very much still the old South. So I have been very much exposed to the most brutalist of racists. I don't think y'all quite get it. Like, I'm living in New York City for a reason. Okay? You guys will come to understand. I did pen my autobiography back in 2010. Actually, I started 2009. It was supposed to be released in 2010. But I held off for strategic reasons. But you guys, once you guys get your hands on my copy of my story, right, then a lot more things will begin to make more sense, right? Not just myself, many of Black people living in this country, especially in the South, we know racism. We know it so well we can smell it, right? A person doesn't have to directly say that they're racist, right? We have been exposed to racist people so much to the point that we can smell racism. We can feel it, all right? It's something that you can feel. It's just like, the energy changes. Like what you feel on the inside, it just shifts, right? So when I come across people who try to minimize or deny or mask racism as if it doesn't exist here in America, which this person did in his very lengthy email. He's not from America. He claims to live here. He claims to be an American. And that's another thing, y'all. African American. Like that's hold on. Let's put a pin in that, right? We're gonna come back to that name. That identity, that pseudo identity, right? We're going to come back to that. But it's just like, you guys have no idea. Like, I actually have more respect. I think I've said this before. I have more respect for outright racists. Just people who, and not just racists, but people who, like, stand tall in who they are, right? And there are different types of white people that exist here in America, right? They're your outright racists, right? Like, they don't hide it. They make it very clear. They're like your Ku Klux Klan type of people, right? They are your people who wear uniforms, who show up as police officers, and some, not all, but many. I would go to say many, right? They are your people who work your typical 9 to 5, your typical middle class America, right? But they make it clear that they really don't like Black people. You have to understand, as a Black American, like, I've lived amongst these people, right? I've somewhat worked amongst them. And that's that type, right? Then there's the other type that, obviously they want to try to deny it. They're like, no, I'm not racist, right? I have a few Black friends, right? And then you have people who are just completely remiss. They are aloof. And oftentimes those people are transplants. So they're moving to America. They're not from here, but they move to America and they are oblivious They're blindsided. And like I say, irrespective of race, I've met many African, native-born African people who have come to America, and they are completely ignorant of the historical and political context that exists here in America. You're like, oh no, racism doesn't exist. Racial oppression, what? Racial oppression doesn't exist. Yet this person isn't in the email trying to school me, trying to provide, like, you can't school me on things that I'm very well versed at. It's trying to school me on these things, like, oh, why would you say that if there's racial oppression, why are so many people moving to America in droves? It's like, that's very poor reasoning. It's very poor logic. Like, if there was racism, if there was so much racial oppression, why are people from other races moving to America? Like, that line of reasoning doesn't even make sense. A country can still very much be racist and yet still have a lot of people traveling, visiting, moving here, right? That doesn't negate the fact that America is a very racist country. I think a lot of people don't know what racism is. Racism is a system. You don't necessarily even have to hate individually and personally hate Black people to participate in the system of racism. In fact, we all do, whether Black or white, no matter your race, no matter your ethnic background, we all participate in this system. It's systematic. It's a system designed to purposefully hold multiple groups of people back, right? And it has its rationale. In my dissertation, in the opening part of my literature review, I talk about the functional purpose of racism. The functionality, that's actually a subtitle in my literature review. The functionality of racism. Why it exists. What function does it? It serves a function, apparently, right? I'm not going to get into that here. But it's just like, for people to deny, to be completely remiss that racial oppression exists, they're very ignorant, to say the least. There are whole academic studies on this in universities. It's just like, this is part of many people's degree, right? In order to get a degree, it's like you have to take a class for many people in sociology. And in sociology, you learn about race, class, and gender. Now, of course, across America, I know you guys probably heard that they are working very diligently to ban this critical race theory. And they've done that in Florida, where they don't want people to learn about these historical and political contexts of racial oppression. They don't. They don't think that children need to learn about this. I learned about it. Hell, in elementary, we had to see roots of not of my choosing. We didn't get to choose if we wanted to see it or not. This was part of the curriculum. They showed us fucking roots. But you guys don't know what roots is because you're not born here in America. So you didn't come up with that type of education. Like, you have to understand, right? Our education, this common core things that we're taught in American schools, it's going to be different than what you guys are taught in your home countries, right? This is how I know when you guys are interacting with me, you're sending me these emotion-filled email responses that are very empty and void of true understanding and knowledge. I can tell that you guys are not from here. So listen, I'll give you a pass, right? Because you just don't know. It's not your fault that you don't know necessarily. But now that you have brushed shoulders and you're interacting with someone from a different culture, I mean, it will behoove you to educate yourself, right? So that you are, like, you do have a certain level of understanding. Not that we have to come to an agreement. We don't have to agree on anything. But so that you're not speaking very ignorantly, right? You're coming from a source where you are informed. This is why you'll see a lot of people, they may, even though they watch my video and it may have rubbed them the wrong way. We're talking about white men, because that's usually who watch my videos. Like, they're not going back and forth with me because they get it. These are American white men. They get it. They get where I'm coming from. They're like, okay, I see that she's speaking from a certain conscience. They know, right? It's like, it kind of goes without saying. It's like an unspoken level of understanding, right? But it's like, you need to be brought up to speed because you're not from here, right? And other people who are not from here watching my video, you're like, wait, oppression? How are you oppressed? Wait, racism? Wait, what? I don't, right? You don't see it. You have to live here in America to understand. And white people who are born in America, there are many who get it. Those are the ones that you see marching when there are riots. They risk their lives. They're out there marching when people, black people, are killed. Innocent black people are killed at the hands of white police. They're out there on the ground marching with us because they get it, right? I go to a lot of I'm very into the film community, right? That's where I was yesterday. I actually was at this film festival, Winter Films Awards International Film Festival here. This is where I was yesterday. I saw a couple of films. One of which was The Big Payback, which is a film about reparations, produced by Erica Alexander. You guys probably know her. She's an actress from Living Single from back in the day. The other film I saw was Black Mother's Love, documenting the story of many different black mothers who've lost their sons to police brutality, actually it's very discriminate. I was going to say indiscriminate police brutality, but no, it's very targeted, and you can see it's laid out, right? It's like, it's clear that they were targeted, as many black men are. It's unfortunate, but I'm very much connected to the film industry, and when I go to an event that white people show up to, right? You know, these events obviously are very political in nature, you know, and it attracts people from different races. It's mixed, and especially being here in New York City, you're going to, you know, be amongst people from different cultures. But what I can appreciate is that even though there are people who are not black at these events, right? And these events, you know, these films can be for anyone, but it highlights things that affect our experience as black people. When I go to these events, like, there is a safe space for black people to express themselves. Even to vent, right? Especially at the screening I went to yesterday and followed the screening. It was a Q&A with the producers. We're talking about reparations here, and in that movie, The Big Payback. Reparations. And some black people that were saying some things, right? But there was white people in the audience, and, you know, it goes to show you that these are white people, obviously, who have been in America for many, many years, right? Born here, you know, they're here. They know the history. So they're not going back and forth, arguing. Not going to but I have never seen that. So when I see it here online, I get online, it's a much different medium. They're a very different space than in-person reality. This is why I just take it with a grain of salt with a lot of y'all, because it's like, I know if this was in person, you wouldn't even have the courage to say what you're saying. You would not do that in person. So you feel so confident. You have the courage to send these emails harassing me, unsolicited emails that you're sending to my inbox. You wouldn't do that. But I'm like, why? It makes no sense. Like, why are you angry? Because I'm talking about racial oppression. I'm talking about the socio-political context in which I live in. Why are you like, you have the nerve to call me a narcissist, but it sounds very much like you were projecting a lot about yourself onto me in that email. Because if anything is narcissism, that is very self-serving. Like, you're going on this rant to talk about all of these European contributions. Like, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what part of my discourse in my previous video that triggered you so much that you felt a need to stroke your own ego. Clearly you were insecure. You felt a need to stroke your own ego, to talk about European inventions. Like, how do we go from a discussion talking about interracial cuckolding, and then you're talking about European inventions? Trying to juxtapose the things that white people have invented against what black people have invented. And you go on to say that if it wasn't for white people, we would still be where in Africa, in a hut somewhere. Basically, that's what you said, right? We'll be uncivilized. You are the reason why we are civilized. As if there weren't ancient civilizations before colonization. It's like, who do you think that you're fooling? I know my history. You are the reason why we live as long as we do. If it wasn't for white medicine, you're saying, we would have a very short life expectancy. Is that true? When we used to live hundreds and hundreds of years, I'm still trying to figure out what the hell happened. We used to be giants back in the day. What the fuck happened? We're talking about ancient times. Like, it just, like, it really kind of, it almost disturbs me. I found it kind of hilarious. But at first it was surprising, like, damn, this motherfucker really invested. Right? Looking at the length of the email. And as I skim it, I'm just like, it's a little bit laughable because I can see, like, I can almost feel the energy. I can feel that you were angry. It only takes an angry person to write the things that you wrote, which, like I said, I'm not going to read it because I don't think it's worth reading. I don't even think it's worth repeating out loud. It's very shameful. You should be ashamed of yourself. What did you accomplish? You accomplished nothing. Maybe you felt better at the end of the email when you clicked send, but what are you trying to prove? Because it felt like you were seeking validation. You didn't like what I said in my previous video as I gave my perspective, because this black bull, he asked me, right? I get emails from many different people wanting me to share my perspective, and I share it. He asked me what's my perspective on the black preference of white people, both men and women. And I said, listen, I can speak for myself on why I like my black brothers, right? Well, I'm not really too fond. We're talking about sexual, intimate relationships. I'm not too fond of white people in that way. But just because I said this, like, you felt rejected, not only you, other men, like, yo, I got multiple comments, multiple emails from people, white men who are outraged at this. It's like you're so insecure that you're seeking validation, you're seeking acceptance. It's like, it's okay for person, we're talking about preferences here. That's my preference. I have a preference for black melanated men. And you are upset? You feel a certain kind of way, like you're fragile, yo. Like, I get it, and I've said this before. Like, the white men who watch my videos, these beta white men, yo, not just the beta ones, but a lot of y'all are beta. Your egos are so fragile. You cannot take a difference of perspective. You take it as rejection. Apparently, you've been neglected, rejected as a child, so you cannot take that. And y'all go on this rant. It's just like, how can we have an intelligible discourse? And this other person, sends an email and I'm just like, he's talking about black people are monkeys and black people smell like the jungle. I'm just like, damn, you really were hurt from my video. But it's not even my video. Like, my video, things I said in the video triggered him, but it goes deeper than what I said, yo. Which it all makes sense now, because the same person who went on this tirade in response to my video that I made recently, and his email, he's talking about black people being monkeys and black people smelling bad, and oh, that's why black people wear cocoa butter, like just all racist shit, right? All micro assaults, essentially. This is the same person who sent me multiple emails relating to cuckolding, seeking advice, right? And he's into the interracial thing, right? So he's saying that he dated this black woman. Both of them were coming out of failed relationships, right? And they enter into this interracial relationship. It failed. It didn't work. That relationship also fell, right? She went on. He thought that she was into him. He thought he had something going, just to find out nothing, right? So he's seeking advice. Now, I did not respond to that email. I don't respond to a lot of emails, y'all, that y'all send me. I'll wait a little while. But now, seeing his most recent email with his rage, his racism, clearly, his bigotry, his disrespect for the black woman, I can very much well see why she rejected your ass. And he's like, why? Why did she reject? Why did it didn't work? Clearly, yo, you have to understand, yo, black people. This is going back to what I mentioned in previous videos, especially in the most recent one, which is the cause of this video, right? Because y'all are fucking outraged. We read energy. Everyone reads energy, but we read energy on a whole nother level. When you talk about black people being tribal, when you talk about us being in the purest sense of what like human form comes in, being in the jungles, being primal, it's something to be said about that primal energy that we possess. Like I think white people speak of it in a negative sense, right? It has a negative connotation, being primal, but I take pride in that ability, which just simply means that we have certain abilities that your average human being just don't have. It's an animalistic type of sensibility that we have. This isn't narcissism. This is just fact. Some of us have been stripped of these special abilities related to our cultural beliefs, our religious and spiritual beliefs. We're talking about native, very tribal, traditional African spirituality. All right, being able to communicate with the dead, being able to make people rise from the dead, being able to speak telepathically, right? And from a European lens, right? You guys misinterpret those abilities as, oh, you're crazy, right? Anything you don't understand or you're not capable of doing yourself, oh, that person has to be crazy. No, right? Being able to heal persons just through touch. Being able to perceive certain things about an individual. Not really knowing that person, but just like being in the presence of that person, being able to pick up on certain things about a person. That's just innate within us. So when you ask a question as to like, damn, why it didn't work out? Yo, like, you are showing your true colors, which I love it, right? I love that you guys were triggered because your true colors are coming out. And I get to see who the true person is that lives in Washington State. I get to see who you truly are. You're truly self-hating, because only a self-hating person will hate other people. And you take it that you project your own insecurities, your own self-hate onto me to say that I hate. No, Black people who are self-loving, who are African-centered, we don't hate white people. Just because I say that I have a preference for my own Black African king, that I hate white people, that is a delusion, you guys. That is self-serving too. Every other race is allowed to have appreciation for their culture, adorn themselves in cultural ornaments. But when Black people do it, oh, we're being narcissistic. Oh, we're being obsessed. This person is frustrated and angry, not only at me, but my African art that I have hanging up on my walls. It's like, yo, that's a whole nother level of sickness right there. Like, how could you hate what someone loves and appreciates about their own culture and their own identity? I don't have to explain myself to you guys, but going back to this person that lives in Washington State, and how do I know? Because listen, IP, no, nothing is hidden. Everything is there. IP addresses are very traceable, right? When you guys think that you're sending emails anonymously, you're really not. I'll just leave it at there. But it's like, I see why this Black woman rejected you. You probably tried to solicit her interest with tangibles, which who wouldn't respond to that, right? She was not with you for you. She was with you for what you could do for her, what you could provide for her, to answer your question, the email that you sent previously. We are spiritual beings. Black people are very in tune with the spirit realm. We're very much connected. Our melanin, this is a scientific fact, and this is what I started to mention and I was talking about in that video that got you guys in an outrage, right? The video entitled Black Bull Questions Interracial Cuckolding. I began to touch on melanin, right? And how melanin connects us, right? It connects us with the sun. Like we are spiritual beings. We're electrical beings. We all are, but having those concentrations, adequate concentrations of melanin, it increases that frequency. It increases certain abilities, right? This is a scientific fact. Our hair is like an antenna. The way our hair is made, the coils in our hair. We're talking about electrical magnetism. We're talking about science here, right? This is what connects us to these realms within the universe. certain groups of people lack that, right? Therefore, they're disconnected. There are differences, which I spoke on in the previous video. It doesn't mean that I hate white people. All right, I talked about me walking into a room, and this is a room, you know, that could be congested with white people speaking, and how I am able to detect this very distinct smell coming from their breath that I only smell in rooms of white people, right? This is science here. This doesn't mean I hate white people. I spoke on how it's been said that, and this is kind of a common thing that's said, that is observable by black people relating to white people when white people's hair is wet, that the smell is likened to the smell of when dogs are wet. And I love dogs. I mean, I do. I own multiple dogs. I actually miss my dogs, right? But it's true, though. It's a similar type of smell. Instead of becoming reactionary to these statements, like, why not go and do research on that? I'm sure it holds weight. Speaking of smell, when I first started working at the hospital, I remember the way our office is set up is like we all kind of work in this open space together, kind of like how police departments are set up with the cubicles, right? And so, you know, that means that we have much more interaction with each other, right? So it's myself as a psychologist, it's the social worker, it's the psychiatrist, it's the nurse. And I remember, like, my space is close to the social worker space. The first social worker who was there, it was a white male. And I remember I was walking back to the space because I'm in the back. He's like right there before you get to my space, right in the middle section. And I'm walking past this, and I'm like, it smells like death. And it got his attention, you know. And I've said, this is not new. I've said this before, that I do have the ability to smell death, yo. This is not after something or someone has died, because most people have that. Most people, you can smell, like if you smell a dead rat, right? Or a squirrel or a body, like you can smell that. But for me, I am able to smell it before something dies. It can be days before that person dies. It can be minutes or hours. But I have that ability to smell death before it happens. And I'm like, it smells like sickness here. It's just, and he's like, no, it's probably you. And I laugh, because I mean, I'm up for jokes, y'all. I'm not easily offended. So make that clear, you guys. Like, for those who are sending me all these unsolicited harassment emails, right? And your intention is to make these racially offensive statements. Yes, it can be racially offensive, but it's just like, it rolls off my shoulder because, like I said, I've been heavily exposed to that. Being a Black American woman, born and raised here in this country, 39 years, going on 40 later this year in September. So it's just like, I'm almost inoculated against that, and to a certain degree, right? But he goes, it's probably you. And I laughed. And I was like, no, I smell it in this area. I didn't say your area, but it was essentially his area. I was like, I smell it like it's in this area. death, sickness and death. Just, I smell it here. He looked at me kind of strange. And, you know, we ended up becoming really good co-workers. Granted, he didn't stay working in that position that long, right? We got a new social worker. But we still, you know, maintain communication with each other. He reached out to me. He asked, you know, if I wanted to go to this particular attraction located near where we work. And I said, sure. But I can tell like that kind of rubbed him a certain way. And it made him think, you know. And turns out, you know, he was diagnosed recently with, and this is prior to my starting, he was diagnosed with a very serious illness. He lost a lot of weight. I didn't know that though. You see what I'm saying? I did not know that. I'll give another example, and I'm gonna move forward. I have a few more things I want to say here before I wrap it up. But I remember living in Los Angeles, and I always take public transportation, right? I actually like it. And I believe this was a downtown train station. I forget the name of the train station. Was it Union Station? In downtown LA. And I remember walking up the steps and I smelled death. I'm like, it's like before I even got there, like I smelled like death. And then I get all the way up to the top of the steps and I see that this person is being given CPR. And I'm like, whoa. This guy was knocked out. It was a white guy. He was knocked the fuck, like, he had apparently had an accident where he had fallen. And it was an older white man. He had fallen, he bumped his head. So a Mexican man rushed, you know, to his aid and was giving him CPR. But I felt like the Mexican man wasn't doing enough. That's just what I felt like. You gonna let the man die. I just felt like he wasn't doing enough, right? He was, you know, he was giving the pumps, he was giving the breaths, but it seemed like he was like, maybe he had been. Maybe before I got there, maybe before I got there, he had already, because that shit can be exhausting, you know. You know, that shit can alternate between the two. That can be very exhausting, right? And that's why, you know, they encourage people to kind of swap out. But, you know, I'm like, damn. And I just smelled death. Like, I just knew this man was going to die. Like, I knew it was no hope. Before I got up the steps, I'm walking up, I'm like, damn, something smells dead. And I get there and just see this man there. I'm just like, wow. And he had a pulse, though. It's like he wasn't dead. He still had a pulse when the paramedics arrived. But he died. He did die. You know, and some of these things probably could scare people like you on the other side listening to these things. You might like, whoa, right? That's pretty, but listen, it's not to scare you, but you should be careful, right? Like, I just feel like people, I get it, we're through a screen, right? We're interacting through a screen. You guys are watching me. Maybe you feel safe, right? You feel protected because you're behind your screen and you're in the comfort of your own home. But just be careful some things that you say. You know, I get that you may be speaking out of ignorance, but that doesn't make you not accountable for your actions just because you don't know, right? Just be careful some things that you speak on, especially when it relates to these spiritual, ritualistic contracts between black people and white people. This is black people, white people in America. We have this long-standing love-hate relationship, right? And if you are not a part of that, just sit back on the sidelines. Like, don't speak on some things. You can ask questions, but just, I would warn, just be careful, especially if you're speaking on Black people. We are a very protected class, not only legally, but we're talking about in a spiritual sense. Very protected. You got to be careful speaking on descendants of enslaved Africans. I'm just going to say that. Be careful. Be careful some things you say even to native-born Africans. I'm just saying, though. Voodoo is real, right? And a lot of people look at voodoo, white people, misinformed people, sometimes look at voodoo or witchcraft as, oh, it's evil and it's this. Listen, I've said this before, like, I don't have to practice witchcraft or voodoo. Like, they're entities, they're spirits working on my behalf that do that. I've seen it happen, yo. I'm just saying, be careful. The ancestors are watching. Our ancestors are, just be careful, yo. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I'll leave that at that. So, this response that I received from this recent video that I made reminds me of two other responses I received, right? And this from, massive responses I received from two different groups of white men. It's always white men, right? White men watch me, y'all. I don't know. And both happening when I was in Los Angeles, right? The first group was in response to a video that I made on Oprah becoming president. This was just a hypothetical video, right? You guys can go back and watch the video on my Facebook page. I think it's on YouTube, but I know I recorded it live on Facebook, and this is where I got attacked by the alt-rights and the right-wing conservatives, yo. And I'm looking like, I'm seeing my numbers just shoot up drastically. My numbers on Facebook, they just shot up. And I'm just like, who are all these goddamn people? Who told y'all? I'm asking them too, like, who sent y'all here? And it was just trolling me, but they came in droves. And they came with their racist remarks, you know. And I just feel like, why? You know, if anything, I was more upset that they were distracting my video, because I was posing a legit question to my audience, like, you know, could Oprah become president, right? But they did not like that shit. And they were just saying things that really had nothing to do with the topic. They rated my video, and not just that video, that they were stalking me, on my other videos and leaving comments and, you know, calling me out my name, nigger, you know, talking about my hair and just very disparaging comments. And I'm just like, okay, y'all clearly racist. You know, so this is a thing, you know, when this person who, the wannabe Arab, African American, right, that I referenced earlier, says that, oh, racism doesn't exist, or, you know, racial oppression weird kind of thing. It's just like, clearly you're not from America. But some of even the tone of his email clearly, you know, spelled out, you know, racism. And it's just like, when I say that Black people, this is not new, right? Like, we're constantly going through this. It's like a daily battle, ongoing daily thing, right? Like I said, it's a reason why I left the South. It's the reason why I do not live in Florida. It's the reason why I do not live in Atlanta. It's the reason why I do not longer live in Los Angeles. I live in all three of those places. I live in New York City. There is a strategic reason for that. Being a Black woman, which some people don't get. And I've had conversations with my colleagues, you know, explaining to them, yes, I lived in those places. And they wonder, like, why did you leave? And why would you leave Florida? all places. Like, have you ever been down to Florida? It makes you question, like, you chose New York over beautiful Florida, palm trees and beaches and nice weather. Like, why? And even Los Angeles, like, why? It doesn't make sense to them. But they're not black. So you will never understand until you become a black person. Living as a black person. A real black person. Not a wannabe. There's a lot of white people want to be trans black. Trans African. I am real black, okay? I was born this way. Until you are, like, you have no idea what it's like, right? It's just like, even though I'm a black woman, I have no idea what it's like being a black man in America, yo. I could only imagine that it's 10 times worse than being a black woman. We have it hard too as black women. Especially, like, we experience direct racism, right? And I have countered that many times over. But we experience it kind of second-handedly too, through the attacks that are on the black man. Limiting our dating options, limiting our options for relationships, not feeling protected by the black man because the black man is not really able to protect the black woman. Barely, I made this post, like, how can a black man, because it's often said, okay, the black woman is the least protected demographic here. And I said, how can the black man protect the black woman if he can barely protect his damn self? Black men have two enemies. Unfortunately, it's other black men. That's an internalized racism. And then it's the system, right, of white supremacy. Strategically designed, This is not made up. People need to go and look at the history. That's the reason why they're trying to wipe out that critical race theory, right? They don't want it taught. They want to wipe out history. No surprise why they're tearing down all these monuments, these racist fucking historical statues that are up, so that people are not properly educated, properly informed. Some people here still to this day that are alive to this day, they were there, right? History is never going to be wiped out. That's like a hallmark of white people, yo. The black face, I'm coming back to that, right? That trans identity and them trying to whitewash out culture and history. They are notorious for that. Leave it up to white people, there would have been no history of black people, right? You would think, looking forward to the future, fast forward, right? 50, 100 years from now, there are no black people according to them. Jesus was white according to them. Like, you leave it up to white people, black people would have no history. So you ask me, why is it that I have my walls adorned with African artifacts and art that I created with my own hands during the pandemic, of course, because we didn't have anything to do, right? Many of us picked up new hobbies, and that was one of mine, painting. You guys can look at my album, my series that I created, my own handmade artwork on YouTube. But I took to painting, yes. But it's just like, I think, obviously, I move with intentionality to make sure that our history, my culture is preserved, my heritage is preserved. Because like I said, leave it up to white people, we will have none. That shit will be X'd out, whitewashed out of existence. They don't want us to remember. Relating to the trans identity, all right, let's talk about that for a little bit. And I'm about to wrap up this video. This whole deal with this trans identity is very laughable, to say the least. You know, these trans Africans, right? You have white people, or let's say non-African people, who migrate to Africa. Now they're African. Okay, you claim what you want to claim, right? But African is genetic. It's in our DNA. That's what makes us African. I am not African because I was born in Africa. I am African because Africa was born into me. It's in my blood. That's my bloodline. Just because you take a certain animal, whether it's monkey, whether it's a dog, whether it's elephant, and you remove it from its natural environment and take it many, many miles over to another land, does not mean that that animal could be identified as a country of where it was taken to. If it's stripped up, if it's born in Africa, and that is its genetic origin, you get what I'm saying? Just because you have white people have moved to Africa and they're born there, it doesn't mean that's your genetic origin. We're talking about genes, DNA. I just find that very laughable. Leave it up to colonization. Egypt, according to a lot of people, they think Egypt, the true Egyptians are Arabic, are Middle Eastern. Leave it up to people. It's just like, this is a problem with leaving your history, your heritage up to other people. You have to retain that yourself and know where you come from. Know who you are. We all come from Africa, truth be told. But let's be clear with history, though. Who were the true Egyptians? These are conversations y'all don't want to have. Going back to the true indigenous African empires, African civilizations that clearly have been wiped out. We're talking about the kingdoms of Africa. Going back to those African kingdoms. Egypt was not Middle Eastern or Arabic. Now it is. But there's a history before the Arabs in Northern Africa. That's indisputable. I've come across many Egyptian stores, right, in Los Angeles. There's one on Hollywood Boulevard. There's one on Venice Beach. I've met the owners. I've had discourse with them. And I mean, when you like on a personal level, right, get down. We're talking about face to face. We ain't talking about no internet bullshit. A lot of y'all become a completely different person on the internet. This is not real life. We're talking about face to face discourse. They will tell you the truth. They know what's up. Yeah, they're profiteering off of this misinformation, and because now they have obviously taken over Egypt, they're making money. People are traveling to Egypt. They're reaping all the benefits from especially Black people who are wanting to reconnect and learn about their historical origins. It's true. You're laughing, but listen, it's true. Leave it up to white people 100 years from now. You go to different places in Africa that you know damn well they were black. Nigeria, Kenya, Senegal, Gambia, Sudan. But then 100 years from now, they might not even be black. And you would think that that's the true origin of that land for those people, when in fact it's not. You see the colonization happening. You see that the Chinese are coming in. You see that obviously Europeans have come in and colonized. Like, this is where things get very muddy, okay? And we need to make those clear distinctions. Black pride, African pride does not mean that we hate white people. So y'all looking at it through your white Eurocentric lens, because white pride means hatred. Historically, when you hear and see these KKK members saying white power, we know what that means. It's not the same for black people when we say black power. That's coming from a different historical context. So you have to understand what these things mean and the context for these things. If you are ignorant to it, you are misinformed, then take some time to do your research. I take issue with people who may come and watch one video of mine on YouTube, and then you just make these assumptions. You don't even know. Do your research first. I'm making this video again in response to the outrage I received from white people, these white beta men who are outraged at me. And I was talking about the other two examples. I almost lost track of what I was saying. I want to forget. But I was talking about the other two examples of a group of white men who expressed this outrage towards me in response to the video. And I was giving an example of the video that I made on Oprah possibly becoming president. This was many years ago, back when I was living in Los Angeles, and how the outright white right-wing conservatives attacked me in response to that. All right. The other time was a video that I made on what the hell is MGTOW. I think I pronounced it wrong the first time. I said MGTOW or something. I think I used to call it MGTOW. And I was genuinely trying to figure out, like, what the hell is this, right? Because someone commented in a hashtag on one of my videos that had nothing to do with them, right? Like, these people come to my channel. Let's put things into context. Let's be reminded they come to my space. I didn't invite them, right? I mean, like I said, my videos are public, it's open. I didn't invite them. They come over to my space and asserting themselves in my space. Unwelcome, really, unsolicited. And this person commented hashtag, the acronym MGTOW, MGTOW, on one of my videos that I made. I don't remember, this was like many years ago when I was back in Los Angeles. I don't remember exactly which video. So in response to the hashtag, I did Google it. I Googled MGTOW, and I'm reading on it a little bit. And what I'm coming across is like a very extremist views from men who are clearly tainted, right? They're clearly overburdened, clearly fed up with women, particularly white women. These are white men generally, fed up with their white female counterparts. And they have probably every reason to, right? Feeling like they have been used as men, bringing home the butter, put in all this work, working so hard, relationship don't go well, the marriage fails, and they get the short end of the stick, right? I made a whole video on that. What the hell is MGTOW, right? That's the video. And I think a lot of them, they were just reactionary. Like, they didn't even take the time to really watch the video, because you'll see that, and this is me. That's what I say. If you really take the time to watch my videos and get to know me, you'll see that I'm completely, really most opposite of what you think initially, right? Like, people have this initial reaction, this knee-jerk reaction, that oftentimes is misleading, because from the comments, and they like, yo, they went in on that video. The MGTOW gang, right? It's like a gang fucking of a whole bunch of bitter-ass, disgruntled white men. But they fucking went in on my shit, and I'm just like, where are y'all getting this? Like, the energy y'all bring in is disproportionate to, or not even relevant to, the things that I've said in this video. Like, it don't even match up. But I'm like, okay, looking at this through a psychological lens, I get it. Their angst has nothing to do with me. I just represent what they already hate coming onto my platform from the jump. I don't know these men. I don't know you guys, right? Y'all really don't know me. You watch my videos. Y'all really do not know me. I don't even know you guys, right? So to go on this tirade and leave a long-ass email, it could only make me think that it has nothing, your angst, your anguish has nothing to do with me. I'm the trigger, yes, I own that. But it's disproportionate. Your reaction is disproportionate to what I said, to the trigger. That lets me know, like, okay, it's something deeper, yo. And this is when I sit back and I'm like, okay, I see. These are hurting men. There's a lot of hurt people that come online. I'm going to say this and then wrap my video up. It's a lot of hurting people, you know, and they watch videos and they interact with content creators, and, you know, they're really projecting their pain, their hurt onto a platform, onto people that have nothing to do with what's going on deep down inside. This is the reason why, like, because I can see it, right? When you guys email me asking for advice, it's like, I'm reading between the lines. Yo, I see the insecurities. I see the pain, you know, but to see like this level of anguish that was spewed out off the fingertips of these MGTOW men, I'm just like, well, damn. And then some of them actually, you know, would share their stories and talk about, oh, my wife, she did this and that, and I suffered this, and I'm still suffering. I'm paying all this money, alimony and child support, and, you know, and they're just over women, and they have these extreme views where they want to create a society without women, where women don't exist. I'm like, But of course, in that video, like, I had to give my heartfelt, honest perspective on that. That's just like the other extreme, which I actually dated an extremist. I talk about this. My last partner who I dated, 2014 to 2017, he was former military. He was a black Jamaican man, but he was extreme, yo. And he would say, like, he thinks the solution to racism in America is just to go and kill all white people, essentially to create a society where white people don't exist. And I would tell him, yo, come on. Realistically? Really? You really think that's possible? You think that's doable? He really believes so. right? It's similar to that. Like these MGTOW men, they're very extreme in their views, and to think that you can create such a society. I'm talking about here in America, right? Now, if you go and you discover your own land, right, or own piece of island, own land, then you know set up this society that you create. Okay, you starting from scratch. That could be possible, but they're going to try to destroy, to tear down, to get rid of all the women here, and to do that deliberately by intentionally not procreating with women, right? Because I'm figuring out, like, how can y'all do this? I'm doing research online. I'm like, okay, and they're saying how they could, you know, create artificial wombs, right, to be able to reproduce, but without women. Biologically, is that possible? Like, you still need the egg of a woman, but we know with technology and medicine, damn near anything is possible. What we think to be impossible is possible, right? They're creating artificial intelligence. They're creating whole freaking robots that mimic the functions of what people are able to do on many different levels, right? But I'm like, it still doesn't make sense. But anyway, I expressed that in the video, and of course they took to the video, and not only that video, but they were like trolling my videos for a good while until they realized, like, this is just a waste, right? It's pointless. But I say that, like, I incorporate, you know, those two scenarios relating to this situation to see, like, the common theme here is white men. Right? This is the beta white cuckold men, right? In this scenario. Prior, it was the right-wing, racist, freaking alt-right group, conservatives. Then it was the MGTOW gang of white men, all white men, right? Projecting their anger, their insecurities onto a black woman. What does that look like? Right? You're arguing, you're yelling, you're going back and forth. Like, it goes to show it's beyond me. I don't take it personal. I don't. I really feel bad, if anything, for those men. Let me tell you the group that I felt, honestly, when I think about it, because I was trying to figure out, who do I feel the worst for out of those three groups that I just described? And when that happened with the alt-right group, I didn't really feel bad for their ass. Nah, I ain't have no remorse. But for the MGTOW men and for the white beta men, cuckold men, I do feel bad for those two groups, right? I really felt bad, I would say, for the MGTOW men, because they seem like, they seem like they'd been through some shit with women. And I really did. Like, my heart really went out to them. But I'm like, somebody has to be the voice of reason. And then there was some, right? So I come to realize and see that there was a spectrum of MGTOW men. Not all MGTOW men are made the same. There was a spectrum of MGTOW men where you have the extreme, right? Those are the ones that want to create a womanless society. They hate women. You can feel it coming off their fingertips reading their comments. Like, they are repulsed at women. And then there are the MGTOW men who have a more balanced perspective, right? Yeah, they may have had bad experiences with women, but they're now in that extreme to say, okay, we need to get rid of all women, right? And they realize that women do serve a function in society, which they accept. But they also made the decision to move forward with just, having interactions with men. Right? And that's their choice. All right. That's the thing about living in America. Like, this is a free country in so many different aspects of the word. It's just like, you can really be who you want to be. You can be yourself. Right. And if that's the movement that you want to be a part of, then you can do that, which they also tried to disconfirm what I said and say that it's not a movement. Because I would say in the video, this is a movement. It sounds like a political movement. You're like, no. We're not trying to pass any laws here. So how are you going to create this womanless society with no laws? Right? But like, no, it's not a movement. This is a philosophy. They made it very clear. And they were so annoyed because, number one, they didn't even want me speaking on it because, I mean, in their mind, they really feel like women should not exist. Just do away without women, right? Do away with women. So with that, they didn't even want me speaking. They're like, why are you in our manosphere, right? Even with me making a video with MGTOW in the title, they're like, you're part of the man, like you're invading our space here, the manosphere space. I'm on my motherfucking channel, yo. This is my goddamn channel. I'm not calling out any names. I don't do that. I don't reference anyone's name. I may speak on ideas, theories, behaviors, trends, which is well within my right to do so, all right? So I'm like, now y'all crossing over now. You getting a little bit too much, right? And I left that where it was. I'm just like, y'all are bitter. And I don't really want to have interactions with people who are irresponsible in their thinking, their behavior, who are just reckless. You know, I just got the vibe that those are just very bitter, reckless individuals that I didn't really want to be any part of. Like, it's not, the conversation was not productive, you know? Clearly, I like to have productive conversations with people who know themselves, right? They have insight into who they are. They are knowledgeable about different things. If we're going to talk politics, please be knowledgeable and please be informed. You know, and are they not so easily triggered? Right? Because I get it. Like, some things I say, I may have certain perspectives and I stand firm in who I am. That's not going to change, right? But it's just like, you know, they aren't secure within themselves, so they want to come on my platform and try to persuade or dissuade me against thinking a certain way. And it's just like, that is unfair. That is very self-serving, right? Like, everyone has the opportunity to create their own channel. You have the opportunity to create your own channel and to make your own videos, to give yourself a voice. So do that, right? But to get on another person's channel and to be obsessed, if anything, because you keep coming back. Like, if I somehow stumble across, because I get that from people sometimes, right? Which I find funny. I'm like, how did I end up here, right? How did this end up in my algorithm, in my timeline, in my newsfeed? How did your video? And I find it funny, or someone just commented that recently and I laugh. It's like, listen, these algorithms have a way, right? They know what we like. They know we could potentially like, right? Now, sometimes they get it wrong. And if it is wrong, then you're here, though. And you watch a significant portion of the video. YouTube, in my analytics, tells me who's watching, like where they're watching from, the length of time they spent on my video. Like, I have access to all of that. So you're watching my videos for an extended period of time. Must be interesting. It must be something that you can relate to, which means that YouTube perhaps got it right, right? But they try to make it seem like, oh my gosh, I just stumbled here. What am I doing here? This is like the idea of being on a porn site, which some of y'all have said, like, oh, I just somehow stumbled onto a cuckold video. Oh my gosh, I just somehow stumbled onto internet. No, it's something within you, okay? These algorithms are very smart, right? These systems online that track our behavior, they're tracking our thoughts. Yeah, I've been fed ads of things that I've thought about. I didn't even speak it out loud. I didn't even search it or type it anywhere, but I'm thinking it, and boom, an ad appears. It's like, that's some sophisticated ass fucking shit. I'm walking in a neighborhood in Manhattan, like Lower Manhattan, and I'm about 50 feet away from this gym that is adjacent to where I'm walking. And I'm on my phone though, right? I think I was on social media, on my phone. And I see a freaking ad for the freaking gym that I'm approaching within 50 feet. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. So my thing is this. I'm going to close with this. If you do not like what I'm saying, I would think that you're smart enough, that you're intelligent. Because these are people that are berating me, saying, you know, calling me out my name and, you know, insulting my intelligence, right? Trying to attack my credibility, which we didn't even get to that, right? This person who claims to be African American, which is clearly white, right? From Switzerland, but, you know, he's attacking my credentials and all of this. And I find it ironic for someone who wants to attack a person's degree. I shouldn't even have a PhD, according to this person. My PhD is not even worth the paper it was printed on. Oh, is that true? I mean, I'm not the one to kind of toot my horn or talk about finances, my own. But I guarantee you, I probably make more money than you. I guarantee you that I have more assets. Let me just leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that. But anyway, but for those people who want to insult a person's intelligence, I would think that you are intelligent enough to know that if you don't like certain types of content, okay, benefit of the doubt, you probably clicked on it by accident, right? But now that you know, don't click on my videos again. Just stop watching. Now, I noticed some of y'all have stopped watching, right? Some of y'all have stopped emailing me, right? And of course, my numbers are impacted by that. But yeah, I would definitely leave that advice with you to just stop watching, because you do know I get paid from clicks. You do know that, right? You do know that when you click on my video and if you see an ad that you are forced to watch, right? Because I activate non-skippable ads on each of my videos, you do know that the time you're sitting there being forced to watch an ad, then to wait, right? It takes time to wait for my video to come on. That time, I am getting paid for that. You do know that, right? You do know that your time and attention is funding my African-centered garments here that I'm wearing that you hate so much. You do know that, right? My quaint Upper East Side apartment that I live in Manhattan, and the AC, the luxuries that you mentioned that we're afforded to living in America. You do know those luxuries are being paid for by your viewership. You do know that, right? So the smartest thing to do is to not invest your time into that. Those things that you don't like, come on. Do you need me to tell you that? Do you really need me to tell you that? Yo, I used to watch, and I made this comment before, where I used to watch this blogger. She's based in New York City, and I used to love her. She's very organic, conscious, just humble. I used to watch her before I moved to New York when I was living in Atlanta. But then, like, she just transitioned. She became a different person. She got on this whole bandwagon of bashing men, you know, and I don't like toxicity, right? Like, toxic people, bitter people, it's just, I can't be that way, right? Because it like, I don't think people know not only the psychological effects, but the physiological, the biological. Like, you are literally shaping your DNA when you choose to be negative, when you choose to consume toxicity. That has an impact on you physically. You do know that, right? Right? If you do know that, they say when you know better, then you do better. Your behavior changes. Right? You don't continue to consume those kinds of things. that don't serve you, that don't mean you any well. And I kind of stopped watching her because it's just so toxic. And she's such a bitter person, right? I don't respond to emails like this person that I mentioned before who's talking about monkey, like I'm a monkey now, right? And black people are monkeys and this, this and that and the other. Like, he then sends a follow-up email after that, like back-to-back emails wanting me to make a video about, I think, a very interesting topic relating to homosexuality and the transmission of HIV. And I thought that was like, wow, this is a really good topic. But I'm not going to make a video on that because he asked. Like, I'm not. I am not reinforcing stupidity, right? And negativity and toxicity. I'm just not. And I'm very careful and calculated when it comes to what emails I respond to. Just know that. On that note, I'm going to wrap this video up. Listen, I hope everyone here watching this video, if you made it to the end, like, that's pretty profound. To make it to the end of my video. I know that I can be very verbose. I know that I can talk a lot. I remember when I was a little girl, my mom would tell me, girl, your mouth is going to get you in trouble, because I just had that tendency to just speak. I had a voice, so I would use my voice. And sometimes when I would use my voice, even in the face of my mom, who was a very strict disciplinarian in the household, I would catch her off guard, just like, out of the mouths of babes, right? Out of the mouths of children. But I was definitely that child that just spoke up, and I'm still that person. That's just who I am inherently. I am who I am. But I definitely remember those words. And she's right. My mouth has gotten me in trouble, but I think it's good trouble, right? I don't mind being in trouble, standing up for things that I hold to be true, right? And what I believe in. I will gladly accept that trouble. Now, I've come face to face with trouble in many different aspects of my life, right? Especially going through my PhD program. That was not easy. I can tell you this, that degree, as this person says, oh, you didn't get that degree on merit. Like, this is all hate. I get it. Coming from him. You didn't get that degree on merit. You got that degree because it was handed to you. No, I earned that degree. I can tell you that much. Especially as a black woman who is unapologetically African in the face of these white people at this PWI. Right? Like, they did not want me there. They did not, yo. And I had many meetings called. Like, it was constant, which was really a distraction, right? Because being called in all these goddamn meetings, this is time that I could be focused on doing something more productive, right? And spending time investing in my research. But here I am in fucking meetings. My nature of my research didn't change. It didn't like my research. I get it. I was actually going to initially do research on implicit racial bias in police officers, and the director of the program advised against it. He said no, because you're not going to be able, you're going to have difficulty recruiting police officers. And lo and behold, I get a job at a correctional facility working for California Department of Corrections. I'm like, I think I would have had an easier time recruiting police officers, whether it be police officers, on the force, or correctional officers, because I had access to them through my clinical rotation later on down the road, ironically so, right? So I ended up basically settling, and I did implicit racial bias in African American preschool children, which is still very relevant research. I kind of replicated the dog test study, the infamous dog test study that was created and made popular by Dr. Kenneth and Mamie B. Clark back in the 40s. I built upon that, and I looked at also acculturation and racial attitudes in African American parents of those preschool children. Also looked at Black identity, which is something that is near and dear to my heart, and there's so much more work that I'm going to do with those constructs and just with the research in and of itself moving forward. So there are a lot of things that I do behind the scenes that I don't bring to social media, rightfully so. But yeah, I just think that, obviously my channel, I'm going to say this, my channel is open to anyone who wants to watch. You're entitled to your opinions, whether positive or negative, but just know that I'm also entitled to what I choose to allow on this channel, and I do have full control over that. There are a lot of people who are blocked from commenting. There are a lot of different types of keywords and types of comments that I have preset to not be allowed to be posted on my channel. All right, I have that in my settings. Right, if a person can't post what I have blocked, I have certain keywords blocked because I find it very annoying when people use certain things. It's just like, for example, I think I even have certain religious words blocked. I do, right? Because you have your self-righteous people that jump on my posts. Like, I've had that previously. And yeah, like for example, I think I blocked, what did I block? I think I blocked like Christ or no, I think I blocked Jesus. I think I blocked the word Jesus. I sure did. Because, people, oh, you need Jesus. Oh no, you need to not comment on my freaking video, right? So yeah, there are certain things that I have blocked. So if you want your comment to show, just be respectful about it. Like, if you want to, this is just advice. If you want to engage in discourse with me, be respectful. You can have a difference of perspective, right? And I have mine, and we can have a conversation. That's if you want to. I'm a very forgiving person too, though, right? Because like I said, I'm not that, I have very thick skin. It's just who I am. It's just my upbringing, right? Especially being raised with my mom, because she's something else. All right, you have to have thick skin around my mom, but with that, and also the nature of my work as a clinical psychologist, just like, come on, I have to have thick skin for the line of work that I do. And I am a very forgiving person because I'm a very understanding person, but I won't tolerate disrespect. It should go without saying. It just goes without saying. So I think I covered all my bases. I'm pausing because I'm like, wait a minute, was there something else that I wanted to address? But I think that I have touched all bases. I don't expect, I think I give y'all way too much credit. That's what it is. Like, I be giving y'all the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, no, they're very intelligent people that follow me. I would like to believe so. These are very intelligent people. But then some of y'all, I don't know, I be questioning. Yeah, some of y'all, I really do be questioning, like, I don't know. All right, I'm about to wrap this video up, but I love addressing this, I knew this is what I wanted to say is that, clearly I'm not the person to go back and forth. Like, I don't indulge myself in negativity. I consider myself to be a high vibrational being, and anything that lowers that vibration, it got to go. Right? It just has no place here. So Yeah, I get it though. When a person is in a certain space, headspace, right? As many of you guys are, like a lot of y'all, I get it. You know, you're going through shit in your life and you're projecting that shit onto me. And, you know, you hold these insecurities and you're very ugly on the inside. So it shows on the outside. You bring that mess over here and then, you know, you're for it, right? You're for this back and forth, you know, going back and forth and name calling. I'm not going to do that. Maybe that's what you expected here in this video, for me to come down to your level. But I'm like, I take too much pride in who I am. I take too much pride in knowing better. And therefore I do better, you know? So I just can't stoop down to that level. I don't know. I feel like that's beneath me. Only thing I can say is that I love myself, right? I hope that you can find at some time to love yourself, find it in yourself to appreciate yourself and to hold yourself to, you know, higher standards, you know, in your relationships with other people. Because oftentimes that's what you guys come to me with, right? These insecurities and having had some unfavorable experiences in your life. So you attract people who really don't give a damn about your ass. They mistreat you, and you find yourselves in these recurrent kind of situations over and over again. You turn to me for advice, but you don't listen, right? You're not really here for advice. You're just here for attention. I get it. But yeah, I come from a place of love, you know. People ask me, damn, how you stay looking so young? Listen, I drink lots of water and I don't hold on to garbage and negativity and people spewing that. Like, you know, you can spew it all you want, but there's a boundary there, right? And I know who I am and I stand firm in that. So I'm not really as impacted by your words as maybe you thought I would be. It's not going to change who I am, right? It's just not. So that's how I stay looking so young. On top of that, I don't have any children by choice. I've thought about it, but then I'm surrounded by people who do have children. And they just complain about not having time to themselves, right? And that's unfortunate. And you know, being a mother and the responsibilities, the mommy duties, you know. So I question, like, damn, do I even want kids, right? I like coming home and not having to take care of anyone. But I also kind of, sometimes I just imagine, this is more like the idealistic mind of myself, imagining what it would be like to be a mother and to, you know, breastfeed, right? And I can do that. I can do that through IVF if I wanted to, right? Without being with a man. If I chose to go that route, I can do that with a man. I explored many different options. Why without a man? And someone has asked me that before. It's because it's just like it gives me more control. For women who choose to be a single mother by choice, that's the whole trend, you know. It's a whole hashtag, single mothers by choice, is that they go through that medical route, the IVF process, and, you know, getting a sperm donor to not have to have themselves in a situation where they are in an emotional kind of entanglement, and then it doesn't work out. There's always that possibility, especially in America, yo. It's just a cultural thing where 1 out of every 2 marriages, and that number has been consistent, yo. I remember I did my first, like, my research, one of my first research studies when I was getting my bachelor's degree back in Florida State University. It was my senior thesis that I did. I was like 21, 22 years old. Well, we had to design a whole research study, and I researched looking at adult children and the correlations of, you know, adult children's attitudes on relationships, and their likelihood of having, or, you know, being in a successful relationship, linked back to whether they were the product of a divorce, right? Because I kind of pulled from my own personal experience, being a product of separation. My mom and my dad separated when I was 12 years old. up until then, I was raised in a 2-parent household, so I was inspired to look into the correlates between adult children and their attitudes on relationships and being the product of a dissolved marriage from their mom and their father. And so with that in my research, I remember the statistic very so well that it was 1 out of every 2 marriages end in divorce. And that was back in freaking 2005, 2006. I'm like 21, 22, and fast forward, like, that number has not changed. 1 out of every 2, and it's just like, well, damn, that's a freaking risk. We're talking about taking that's like a gamble, right? You have 1 out of 2 chances that your marriage will work, right? It's 50% chance. That seems high, but that's too risky for me. And then on top of that, I think the numbers are probably even higher for Black women to likelihood. It's, and it's so many different factors that affect that chance. I don't think, this is statistically speaking, I don't think I'm willing to take that chance. Of course, one can make the argument the other side that, okay, well, it could be a chance, the stronger chance that, not even a stronger chance, I would say just maybe a chance exists, right? That things would go well, right? But what are the odds? I know, I feel like the odds are definitely against me in that way. So I'm calculated. My body works just fine. I still get my period. I've done ovulation testing. My hormones are there. They work. I release egg every month. I know I do. I gauge that. Just naturally speaking, I'm able to tell the consistency, in my discharge. It's just TMI, right? I have to remind myself, men watch my channel. I think I'm talking to women here. But yeah, it's like, so I'm very much in tune with my body in that way. And, I would like to, but I've been exposed to, oh my gosh, just too many bad stories of it not working out, and I feel like my life, if I have control over things, and the things that in my life, are well within my control, like my career, for example, right? And my financial stability and my happiness, right? Like, I want to maintain that, you know what I'm saying? I don't need to invite somebody in my shit that's going to just disrupt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need that. I don't need, and I've been open to dating, but I'm so cautious and calculated because we just live in a very messed up culture. This is America. This is not other places that actually value relationships and value love and value marriage, right? That's not value in America, and specifically within the Black culture, Black American. It's just not. We live in this throwaway culture where, men and women, they use each other and they throw each other away and go to the next person. And it's like, right? To each his own. I'm all for sexual freedom and sexual liberation and doing what you do. But at some point, one has to draw the line and say, okay, how is this impacting me on a psychological and emotional level? I always keep that in mind, how is this impacting me spiritually? People don't understand. And going back to another video where we were talking about this, and you had people kind of coming to the defense of, women should liberate themselves, and trying to make the argument for why women should be in agreement to this whole cuckold dynamic and sleeping with multiple men. And it's just like these people clearly aren't taking into consideration this is spiritual contract. When you lie down with a person, like that's too much for y'all. I already said too much, but that's a whole nother spiritual contract that you're engaging in. You just got to be careful. These are things that are happening on a spiritual level that y'all are unaware of because you don't see. A lot of people kind of dismiss spirituality because it's something they can't touch it, right? It's not tangible per se, in the traditional sense. So they kind of dismiss it. But no. Y'all, Drop your comments below. Share this video. Sometimes y'all forget the thumbs up. I don't really think it matters. I mean, it could, I guess. People look at the video and see it's only 3 likes, so it's only, but I don't really care about that necessarily. But if I feel like if the video is helpful to you, right? If you made it this far in the video, perhaps you should share it. Share it with your followers, see what other people think. And think twice before you send me some long, supposedly anonymous email, because nothing is anonymous now. Y'all should know that. We live in the information age. It ain't shit hidden, right? Everything is out and open and accessible. Catch you guys later, and I love all of you guys because I'm just filled with so much love. I'm thinking about what do I want to eat today. Something very hearty. If I should take myself out to eat, which I probably will. Only disappointing thing about that is that going out to eat, and sometimes it's not made perfectly to my liking. But there are a few restaurants that they don't miss. All right, so maybe I'll just go to one of those restaurants that don't miss a beat. Catch you guys later.